The CUlling games will be the arc we finally see Yuki enact her plan of zero curse energy. Upon the death of Toji, and what we can infer from the brief dialogue between Yuki and Kenjaku, Yuki's plan to enact zero curse energy had gone in flames with the death of the only heavenly restriction. However, now with the revival of the heavenly restriction being that through Maki, we have seen that Yuki has gained new resolve to enact her plan of zero curse energy, which directly confronts our main antagonist in Kenjaku. So I think one of the biggest chapters and most important chapters that we got in regards to Yuki was the confrontation between Kenjaku and Yuki. Yuki talked about how she wants to enact the zero curse energy, and Kenjaku talked about how he wants to maximize curse energy. The difference is, and what we got to see, is the potential danger of Kenjaku's plan. And I think this is exactly why Yuki is going to have a big role in this arc, and especially what we can see from her brief dialogue by herself, where she says that, have you realized I'm not necessarily on your side? And I think she kind of enacts with the similar kind of priorities of those of the special grades. They're never really in the side of the people, however, are only in their best interest. And for Yuki, her best interest is to eradicate cursed spirits. We have Gojo, whose his best interest is to revamp the new era of Jujutsu. And then we have Geto, who wanted to do his monkey extermination. Regardless of this, they all have thorough ideals on the Jujutsu world, and I think it's finally interesting that we're going to see finally the last of the main special grade finally enacting their plan or getting more indication to what they want to do. So there's two ways that we can look at this, and we can start off with what I had just talked about with their conflict with Kenjaku. With the Kenjaku talking about the barriers and trying to eventually optimize curse energy, we can get to the point where Yuki said where Japan will be the only one monopolizing on curse energy. And I think this was part of the lore drops that we got that could potentially show how big the CUlling games can be as an arc. She mentioned other countries such as the Middle East and different superpowers would not agree with the monopoly of curse energy, and it could be an indication, could we get to a point, could we see a world war scale curse energy? I think as if the potential for how bad this potential worst case scenario can be is very high, and is why somebody such as Yuki has finally decided to get involved. However, let's go back to her first kind of indication to this plan, and we go back to the Star Plasma Vessel. So when we go to the conclusion of the Star Plasma Vessel, we already can find out that Yuki has a very tainted view on the Jujutsu world. Similar to the fact of what I talked about, how the different special grades have a different application in how they view the world. She goes with the root cause of how hypocritical curse energy is, with obviously her little dialogue where she explains the fact that curse energy is made from the negative emotions from humans. She wants to go to the root cause of taking away curse energy in the first place. By taking away curse energy, we can get to a point where now there is no curses, or we got to the second where we can teach humans how to control their curse energy. The second seems to be more likely with somebody such as Tengen, and it can indicate to why she is now going to a point where she wants to confront Tengen. It's going to get to an indication where we tie in both Kenjaku, Yuki and Tengen being three mysterious characters who have the opposing ideals in terms of what they want to do with curse energy. We have Tengen, who wants to make sure the fundamentals and build the foundations of Jujutsu. We have now Kenjaku, who is optimizing curse energy, and then Yuki, who wants to remove it. I think people such as Maki is going to be an important person for her, how Maki and her POV potentially work with somebody such as Yuki. I think the fact is how much of Yuki is actually of an ally and how much of a change will having zero curse energy be. I think this will lead to something of the explanation to somebody such as Heavenly Restriction. I think we're going to get a direct parallel to maybe some more backdrop and backstories to somebody such as Toji. We know Toji was living as an assassin for a long time, so maybe we'll get some more explanation, or this will just be done completely through Maki. We know from the inner dialogue with Yuki and Geto, Yuki wanted to ask Toji for some type of collaboration to run some experiments on him. Now that with, like we said, with Maki being available, she could potentially do the same thing with Maki, and we can get to a situation with how do you test certain heavenly restriction. Would this mean we'll get more indications to different type of binding vows? This will help us explain a lot of something that Sukuna says, with binding vows being the foundation for Jujutsu sorcery. And I think the potential of what we can be done through Maki, Yuki is extremely interesting, and I'm excited to see what Gege does with it. Regardless of this, I think this will be an indication, and maybe we'll get to a part where we finally see another person get into heavenly restriction and can give us an indication to other ways in which they can be done. I think regardless of these plot points are extremely interesting, and I think somebody as Yuki beyond her strength has so much potential. Now I'm going to talk about briefly her strength, because right now, her being a special grade, we haven't seen too much of her, but we can infer that she's a very strong individual. One, the fact that she's Todo's master and was the person who obviously gave the scar to Todo. Second, we know that her arrival in Shibuya managed to save the good people, and at the period when we saw that Ome and Kenjaku was about to sweep our main cast, we got to a point where Yuki's arrival managed to stall and stop the main cast from dying in that scenario in Shibuya. I think regardless, her strength is very interesting, and we're going to get her kind of more involved into the story, and we can potentially get another interesting curse technique which we can see down in the future. Then now let's get to a point where, is she a good person? She seems to have already a clouded moral code, and the fact that she didn't seem too fazed with Geto's deciding to kill people. She acknowledged the opinion, and even though maybe she might not agree with it, she wasn't in an interest where she wanted to stop him from doing whatever POV he decided. And I think this is interesting because this could speak volumes to her potential usage in the story. There could be times where she could be seen to be helping people, but could only be in what could be seen as her best interest. Of course, we don't know enough of her, but I think she adds as a potential anomaly in terms of what is going next. Like I said, with her now confronting Tengen, we could be in a situation what if Tengen aligns with a similar type of ideals with her. Of course, this has nothing to do with what we're seeing from Tengen right now. However, there's so much question marks in terms of her as a character. And I think one thing that's interesting about Yuki that I do hope gets explored is her thing that she talked about with Geto. She talked about the fact that there is this common theme that we've seen with people like Gojo, Geto, and people who are extremely at the top and pinnacle of strength. She said looking down at non-sorcerers, resisting that feeling, these are possibilities that you thought of. However, you have to decide on which is your true feeling. We have Geto, who ended up looking down on people and went through that path where he wanted to destroy non-jujutsu sorcerers. We have Gojo, who strayed away from that path and went the other way, where he now wants to gather other strong allies to be able to change the new jujutsu world. And now we're going to get to a point where we're going to explore what was Yuki's path. She's gone on set in the path of removing cursed energy. However, what was the reason in which changed her to get to that series? We've got through Geto and we kind of see his POV in terms of why he became this individual. We get Gojo's POV and see more of why he became this individual. However, Yuki being another fellow special grade, I think this is exactly the arc for her to be explored and get to a position where we see the different POV in the final special grade. Regardless of this, I think Yuki is an extremely interesting individual, and I think her kind of psyche is something that I want to be explored soon in the CUlling games. Regardless of this, I think her clash with now Tengen is going to be something that's going to be extremely interesting. Potential clashing with somebody like Kenjaku are going to be big plot points which I think Gege will deliver. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe if you enjoy these type of videos, and thank you guys for watching.